Okay, so I can't believe I'm going to do this. I really never expected to do this. But I was sitting here, and I was rendering some stuff for the edit of another video that I'm working on. And I went to one of my favorite sites, xastrusscientia.org, a very popular Star Trek site that's been around for a long time. And I caught up on the site runners. That'd be the term. His name's Burned something. I can't remember exactly. But his reviews of Star Trek Discovery, because I've been watching Star Trek Discovery again. And I'm kind of upset. Like, not really upset, but I'm kind of upset by the way he's handling reviewing these episodes. Because for a little bit of background, this website, xastrusscientia, is an excellent website. I still love this website. I want to be clear about that. I'm going to be criticizing not the site itself, but the approach to reviewing episodes here today. But I want to be clear that I really love this website. I won't be able to find it before I'm done just saying what I want to say. But the Starship database is fantastic, and it's probably, I'm not sure where it would be. That's a Pokemon I can catch. There's an article somewhere on here where the site runner and I think a couple other people work together to, and this isn't going to make any sense if you don't know Star Trek, but they work together to reconstruct all the damaged ship models used for the aftermath of the Battle of Wolf 359 in Next Gen, and figure out what class of ship they most likely were, because we heard about a lot of different Starfleet ship classes from that era, but didn't really see them ever, right? And it's a fantastic article. Like, for a fan who likes the special effects and the model work in the show, it's a fantastic article. One of the best on the internet. Like, people use it as a reference. It's amazing. But but Burn's always been, let's just go to the first of these reviews, has always been very hard on the episodes of the show for their continuity. Like, he's always cared a lot about continuity, and I do too. Like, don't get me wrong, I definitely care about continuity. But, like, he takes it so incredibly far. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I'll be entirely honest, back when I used to read this site more often, and back when Discovery was still genuinely bad, which it's thankfully not anymore, I felt much the same way. But I've softened a lot on this lately. And it bums me out that there are still some people who could be getting more enjoyment from the franchise, but aren't, because of really pedantic things. And as I'm saying that, I want to scroll up here. He gives ratings out of 10. Like, you can see, like, here's a 6 for a Discovery episode. There's a 7 for a Discovery episode. And this is, like, in the context of Star Trek as a whole. Like, these aren't awful ratings. These are about average ratings, right? Like, some of them are a little lower. So, like, these aren't awful ratings. It's not like he's hating the episodes altogether. It's just, I think he's being really unfairly harsh on them. And I want to talk about that a little bit today. Because I get where he's coming from, right? With some of this. Like, let's read through some of this for real quick. And I want to provide context, right? So, we're in Season 3 of Discovery. The USS Discovery has gone forward in time almost 1,000 years, removing it from a time something like 20 years prior to the original series, and putting it after every other season of the show. Ever. At this point. Like, they're in the 31st or 32nd century or something, where the farthest we'd ever gone was in Star Trek Picard. Like, the farthest we'd ever gotten an actual serious setting was in Star Trek Picard in the late 24th century. So this is way far in the future, and they can do pretty much whatever they want with the visuals at this point and get away with it, which is great. Discovery should have always been set after everything else, because the visuals just didn't fit. They didn't fit the era prior to the original series. And it's one of the things that really annoys me about the first season of Discovery. One of the many things that really annoys me about the first season of Discovery, which I did finally go back and finish watching. I watched the second season first. Then I went back and actually watched the first season. It was bad. It had some good moments, but it was bad. The second season was a remarkable step up. And season 3 so far, I think, has been even better. I've liked it a lot. And not just because they've been giving us a lot of fan servicey stuff. Like, straight up, 1,000 years in the future, the USS Voyager might still be part of Starfleet. The USS Voyager from Star Trek Voyager, which, despite the fact that I have a lot of criticisms of Voyager, by God, I love Voyager so much. So that's really freaking exciting. It's stupid, but it's still really exciting, because guess what, guys? I love Star Trek too. I really do. I really do. I can't stress that enough. But Star Trek's always been kind of stupid. And in the context of these couple of episodes that I'm going to be talking about today, a few things illustrate that more than the subjects of these episodes themselves. Because the subjects of these episodes themselves are taken directly from the original series, that being the mirror universe, which even people who don't know Star Trek, I'm sure, know the concept of the mirror universe. It has permeated pop culture at this point. And the Guardian of Forever, a space-time portal set in a stone archway that the original series cast encountered, and it was able to, the crew, not the cast, not the literal cast, but the people they played in the show, encountered it on a planet and were able to use it to futz with time accidentally and then fix it. And both of those things are stupid because, like, they're great. They're great sci-fi concepts, but they're also stupid if you look at them logically. Because one, the Guardian of Forever, a thing that can send you anywhere in space and time. Apparently it doesn't draw power from anything because it's on a desolate planet. So how does it function? Where does it get the energy to do that? Why does it work the way that it does? How can it talk? How can it have what seems to be an artificial intelligence when it doesn't have a power source or recognizable computer systems? It's effectively a Deus Ex Machina in physical form that exists only to allow the writers of the episode, what was it called? What was that episode called? The City on the Edge of Forever. It exists only as a device to allow the writers on The City on the Edge of Forever. I cannot remember who wrote it now, which, was it DC Fontana? It might have been DC Fontana. Oh, I should know this. It doesn't matter, though. It really genuinely doesn't. But it exists just so that the story can happen. There's no logical reason for it to exist. It's a goofy concept. And the mirror universe is just as stupid. An evil universe where the same crew of people exists on the same ship in the same place, but they're all radically different, except they're actually not. Like, this is a universe where the entire society of Earth is imperialistic, and everyone is perfectly willing to stab anyone else in the back, both literally and figuratively, at any time for practically no reason. And yet you're telling me that in that society, the same people throughout history would meet, fall in love, and give birth to the same children, giving them the same names often enough that far into the future, the same group of people will end up on the same starship with virtually the same design, in the same positions that they are in our universe? That's absolutely ludicrous. But it makes for a fantastic episode, so people ignore that. Like, Mirror Mirror is a great episode. The one that introduces the concept of the mirror universe. It's a great episode. So people ignore that. That's stupid. It's so logistically stupid. Like, even if we move forward into the era of Deep Space Nine and The Next Generation, where in Deep Space Nine we visited the mirror universe a few more times, somehow in that future, the same human characters, just counterparts to them, end up on the same alien space station as all of the DS9 regulars with the same names, despite the fact that at that point in time in the Mirror Universe, humanity is a shadow of its former self, having been enslaved by a coalition of other species. It just doesn't make any sense, and yet we are supposed to accept it because the episodes range from fantastic to just pretty goofy fun, right? It's a plot device, and we as the audience are supposed to accept that. So, simply put, and I've always felt this way, any serious examination of the functionality of either of these things, the Guardian of Forever or the Mirror Universe, has always seemed asinine to me. Because we're not, that's the one thing about them that we're not supposed to think about. And yet, that is something that these reviews do very prominently. They pick apart the logistics of the Mirror Universe, which is not supposed to make sense. Again, I want to reiterate that. It is not supposed to make sense. And then logistics about the Guardian Forever, which we know virtually nothing about anyway. We know more about the Mirror Universe than we do the Guardian Forever. So if I don't think that we should be examining the logistics of the Mirror Universe, obviously I don't think we should be examining the logistics of the Guardian either. It's very stupid, and it's very obvious from the way these reviews are written that points are deducted from them because of these elements. And so it frustrates me quite a lot. And what's even worse is I don't even think the criticisms that, again, I think his name is Burned, I don't remember for sure. I'll just say the site runner. I don't even think that the criticisms that the site runner has of these concepts are valid within his own framework. I think he just doesn't like the show and is trying to contextualize that logistically when it would be perfectly acceptable to just say, I don't like the show. I'm going to give it this rating because that's how I feel about it and this is my website. And yet he doesn't do that. So let's dig into this a little bit. Specifically, the specific context of these episodes. It's a two-parter, Terra Firma Parts 1 and 2. The former emperor of the humans, the Terrans from the Mirror Universe, Filippo Giorgio, has been a main cast member for a while now, for like 2 whole seasons at this point, right? And she's been changing as a character, you can see it. It's been kind of subtle, because the show still doesn't focus on its secondary characters nearly as much as it should be, but I'm not going to get into that here. But she has been changing as a character, and after the Discovery moves far into the future, for reasons that, again, I'm not going to get into, but they make sense in context, she starts to suffer from sort of like a weird space drag upon her molecules. She is so far from her own time and her own space, being from another universe, that her atoms, her molecules are trying to pull back to her original point of origin, and it's harming her. The others are okay because they're at least still in their same universe. But because hers is a twofer, having jumped universes and then jumped into the future, she's at risk of, I think the implication is, literally falling apart at the seams, like her molecules will literally come apart. Which, the energy released from that would be tantamount to a high-yield nuclear bomb, but the show doesn't dwell on that. But that's been a problem in Star Trek for a while. So again, it's consistent with the universe, right? So, using another ridiculous, borderline magical plot device that I still like because it's cool, because that's what Star Trek is, right? They're able to locate this guy from this picture here on an ice planet way out in the Gamma Quadrant, which is at minimum like 70,000 light years from where Discovery would have started out, because Discovery can literally go anywhere. That's like its one defining characteristic, rather. And somehow this guy is supposed to be able to help Philippa. And because even though she kind of sucks, all the Starfleet people are like goody-goody people, they want to help her anyway, right? So they go here. There's also like a thing where the Admiral of Starfleet, like the head of Starfleet, wants them out of the way because a major fight's about to happen and they don't want to lose Discovery and its magic go anywhere engine. But they go here and they talk to this guy, and Philippa is sent back in time and replaces herself in the past of her own universe and is able to try to change things. And it seems for a while that she is starting to succeed. That working within the framework of her own reality's system, the way that things work in her own reality, she is starting to make headway towards changing the mirror universe for the better, but then things go bad. She has a bad time, let's say, and then suddenly she's back. And it turns out that she has become a better person. So this guy, Carl, feels like it's safe to send her back in time in the main prime Star Trek universe so that there won't be that two-factor drag on her molecules and she'll survive. We don't know exactly where she's going to end up yet. Apparently she's going to be in a spin-off that I'm not excited for at all. But she does make the choice to accept his offer and go back in time, and she's going to be all right. And he even says that she's going to save a lot of lives, which is very cool. And I will freely admit, and Discovery had the same problem in its second season, I will freely admit that because this picks up plot threads that have to do with Discovery's rendition of the Mirror Universe, these episodes aren't the best. I don't think they're great or anything. I think they're deserving of better than a rating of 2 out of 10 and 1 out of 10. But they're not fantastic. They're not great episodes. And they are not great episodes, at least in part, because, and again, this is something that popped up in Season 2 as well, these elements, these Mirror Universe elements, are taken from the first season of Discovery, which was bad. It was very bad, guys. It was just so bad. And even back in Season 2, which was closer tonally to Season 1 to begin with, whenever Season 1 plot elements would pop back up again, they felt like they came from a completely different show. And that's how it feels again here. And so it takes you out of the story of this season, which so far has been pretty freaking good. Not amazing, but good, solid, enjoyable. And I didn't like the episodes much for that. And to be fair, that is part of the site runner's issue here. And I did mention earlier that he could just say he doesn't like the show and move on, but he does kind of say that. Where is it? I can't tell whether Terra Firma 1 and 2 rather bores or annoys me. Had Discovery been as decent as recently from the start, I would say it has jumped the shark, but with the past history in mind, the double episode is much like a relapse to former habits. So I agree with that. Part of the reason these episodes are bad is because they pick up those plot threads that were bad. But he also has an issue with the rendition of the Guardian of Forever in this episode. Where is it exactly? Is it here? Yeah. I thought the meaningless and unemotional excursion to a place I don't care for was the worst part of the episode, yet the revelation that followed annoyed me even more. Harking back to Star Trek's rich history can be fun and can create a stronger continuity if done the right way. However, the Guardian of Forever, just like the Mirror Universe 2, should have been better remained untouched. Because it turns out Carl is the Guardian of Forever. So let's head back down here. Where is it? Not only was the Guardian visually updated, relocated and supplemented with Carl, an avatar didn't have in TOS, the City on the Edge of Forever, or the animated series Yesteryear, which I don't care what I don't care how official it is. I just don't buy that the animated series is canon. It's bad. The whole nature of the time portal was totally redefined. The new Guardian can read the minds of its clients and creates custom-made timelines for them. It didn't do that in the episode. Just to test them, it subjects those who want to cross to an infallible trial of whether they are worthy of time travel. It acts like a godlike authority that assesses the morality of people and thereby grants Giorgio her absolution. And my question for, again, the sight runner, I can't remember his name. Why is this a bad thing? Why is it a bad thing that the nature of this thing has changed over the last 1,000 years? Especially when the episode tells us outright why it happened. We know outright why the Guardian disguised itself as Carl and a regular door. He tells us outright, because it is part of the continuity of Discovery Season 3, that at some point in the last few hundred years, there was a huge temporal war. People using time travel to kill unfathomable amounts of people throughout history. To try to supplant each other. It's supposed to be an offshoot of Star Trek Enterprise's temporal Cold War. Right? And Carl flat out tells us in I think it's the second episode of these two. Yeah, it would be the second episode of these two. That people tried to use him. Tried to use the Guardian of Forever to do this more easily. And so he has gone from just letting anyone use him, with the stipulation that if they mess things up, they have to fix it, to testing people and choosing where they go so that he can better prevent the abuse of his abilities. And the new Guardian can read minds. It acts like a godlike authority. Of course it does. Of course it can, and of course it does. He is literally the Guardian of Forever. He is literally the authority on time travel. It's something with that much power. I have no problem accepting that it can read people's minds. I have no problem accepting that at the very least, it would believe that it is the authority on who can use this time travel ability. Even the Carl avatar is explained. Even the fake door is explained by the fact that the Guardian went into hiding to prevent people from misusing it as often anymore. Why is it a bad thing that it was updated in this way, if it works within the story that you're trying to tell? I don't understand. I thought it was pretty freaking cool that they established this temporal war and then updated the Guardian in a way that makes sense in a universe where that war happened. Like, straight up, if you look at the updated look for the Guardian, let's actually open this. The only thing that bugs me about this, the only thing, is that it isn't lit up from the inside, that it doesn't have any interior lighting like shining through the rock face like it did in the original series. I really wish that after the door had transformed into the standard Guardian of Forever archway, that every time Carl had spoken, there had been some sort of light come from inside the stone. That's literally the only thing that I would have done differently about the upgrade to the Guardian. I thought it was great. Just fantastic. Best part of the episode. I don't understand this criticism at all. And he's done this before. He's asked questions like this of an episode of Discovery that I feel suggests that he either fundamentally doesn't understand Star Trek, which seems impossible to me, considering how long he's been writing about it, or else he just doesn't want to give Discovery the benefit of the doubt and consider why the writers might have made the choices that they did. It was back in the episode Unification Part 3, which is a sequel to the Next Generation episodes Unifications Part 1 and 2. Burnham, the main character, which I'm not going to get into why Star Trek shouldn't have a main character, but that's beside the point. There's not a picture of them here, I don't think. But she addresses a council of mixed Vulcans and Romulans, a three-person council of mixed Vulcans and Romulans on the planet Navarre, which used to be the planet Vulcan, before the reunification of the Vulcan and Romulan species. Because they're offshoots of the same species. She addresses this council to try to convince them to release information on an experiment that she thinks might be able to help with her current research. And there's a lot of contrivances in the episode, I will admit that. But overall, I thought this was a good episode. Her mother, who is a new character that we only met back in Season 2, is, through those contrivances, Michael's advocate in this council hearing, I guess is the best way to put it. And she implores Michael not to just rely on Vulcan-style logic, She insists that these people will want her to be honest about her emotional state as well. And the site runner asks, I'm not sure exactly where in this review, but at one point asks, maybe in the nitpicking section, I don't know, but somewhere in this review, asks why the totally logical Vulcans would care about the emotional state of the person who's making this request. It just doesn't make sense. And I could not disagree more. First of all, they're not just Vulcans anymore. The Romulans are there, and the Romulans have always embraced emotion. They're a factor in this too, but also, just because Vulcans have repressed their own emotions doesn't mean that they don't understand that other species have emotions that they express freely. And if the entire point of this council is for Michael to be honest in her reasons for requesting this thing from them, they would want to be aware of her emotional state so they can take that into account when assessing her motives. That makes sense, and the episode tells us that much. It tells us as much. It doesn't say so in those words specifically. It actually assumes that we're intelligent enough to figure that out for ourselves. But it does tell us that through the character of Burnham's mother. So it really is starting to come off as disingenuous. His approach to reviewing these episodes is really starting to come off as disingenuous. And the reason I'm bringing this up specifically is not to dig on this website or the people who work on this website specifically. It's because I've been seeing this attitude among Star Trek fans lately, and I just don't understand it. Let's talk about the newly redesigned USS Enterprise for Discovery as well. Real quick, let me see if I can find it really fast. Here's a pretty good image of it right here. See if I can bring this up. My frickin' computer. It took me to Reddit. Gross. There it is. If you know anything about the original Enterprise, let me actually see if I can bring that up too. Here's the original USS Enterprise here. I'm probably just gonna put these up as separate images in the video instead of clicking around websites. But here's the original USS Enterprise here, and here's the redesigned one for Discovery with an updated look, one that's more suitable for high definition screens. I think they did a pretty freaking good job of updating this to look like this. I think it looks pretty freaking good. This is one of my favorite fictional starships of all time. Fictional starships, as if there's non-fictional starships. I think this looks great. They brought the color of the nacelles in line with more modern ships. The color of the ship itself is more in line with modern ships, but the lines are all there. The proportions are a little different, but the lines are all still there. And this isn't even the first time that the look of this original Enterprise has been updated either. Let's see if I can find this one too. Originally, the USS Enterprise was updated for the big screen for the first 6 Star Trek movies into this here. And people like the site runner of Ex Astra Scientia didn't have a problem with that, despite the fact that even though this and this look like they have very similar proportions, they really don't. They're very radically different to the point that it doesn't make sense that this ship would be the same as the other one, even after an extensive refit. It just doesn't make much sense that they would go through the trouble of refitting this ship to look like this, when they could just build a new ship that looks like this. It's goofy. It's one of those goofy things about Star Trek that people accept just because it's from the era of Star Trek that they personally think is good. And quite frankly, the different profile of the neck here, the more triangular shape of these nacelle pylons, fits more in line with this version of the ship from Discovery anyway. It drives me nuts. Like, I will fully agree. Some aspects of the visuals in Discovery are pretty bad. The USS Discovery itself is only occasionally a good-looking ship. I think its design is kind of lackluster. And the other Starfleet ships from Discovery, like from the first couple seasons of Discovery, were such radical departures from anything that we had seen from that era of the show the show's history, the show's continuity up to that point, that they just didn't fit. They didn't fit within the design lineage of Starfleet. And therefore, I agree with people saying that they weren't great. They looked kind of bad. They would have fit better as future ships instead. Ships from an era that we had never seen before. I agree with all of that, but that's because it's such a radical departure, and yet I have seen people who have made those same arguments, making the exact same argument for this new Enterprise design, and it doesn't deserve it. This is a good design. I don't understand at all. It comes back to the Klingons, too. The radical redesign of the Klingons, when they didn't need to be redesigned, is bad because they didn't need to be redesigned. You could have maybe updated their makeup a little bit, but the new design for the Klingons in Discovery does not feel like it grew organically from the design of the Klingons up to that point, which was, for the most part, a finalized design. It was the same with those other Starfleet ships from seasons 1 and 2. They did not feel like they grew organically from the ship designs that we had seen from that era of the show's history. This, though, this does. Just like all of the updates to the Guardian of Forever. They grow organically from the narrative that's being told. They are not deserving of the level of criticism that they've been receiving. And to be clear, I want to be absolutely clear about this. I've been enjoying Season 3 of Discovery way more than I ever expected that I would. It's still, at best, my second to least favorite Star Trek series, though. I still don't think it's that fantastic. It's a fun and entertaining show. But Star Trek has definitely done a lot better. So realize that. Realize that that is the case. And keep it in mind as you think back on how fiercely I have defended this show. I'm not defending this show because I'm like some uber fan of the show. I am defending this show because I genuinely believe it does not deserve the harsh criticism it's been receiving. In fact, if you guys watched my original 2 cents video on Star Trek Discovery, way back when Season 1 was still ongoing, and I turned you off to the show, I would actually recommend starting at Season 2 and watching the show. You don't need to watch Season 1. It tells you everything you need to know about Season 1 to understand what's happening in subsequent seasons. But if you're a Star Trek fan who never watched Discovery, I would recommend watching it. It's gotten a lot better. And I understand that when a show disappoints you, when you feel that a show is disappointing to a legacy of other great stories, that it needs to be criticized. But I feel like if you're going to criticize something, you have to criticize it fairly. And that's really what it comes down to, is I don't feel like these criticisms are fair. I don't know, maybe you guys disagree. If you do, I'd love to hear about it. I would love to talk about this subject. Fumbling over words all over the place in this video. I'd love to talk about this subject with you guys in the comment section down below. Because, believe it or not, I kind of want to talk about Discovery. I also have some things I'd like to see come to fruition in Season 3 of Discovery. Like absolutely bonkers things that might be objectively bad, but would still be really fun to see. So if you'd like to see another video about Discovery where I just go balls to the wall with my headcanons and my various hopes for the season, let me know. I will definitely put that together. Also, what do you think of the quality of my new webcam? This is not going to be my permanent camera or anything. I actually think I've gotten my regular camera to work again, which is great. If you guys have been following that particular announcement on Discord and Tumblr and here on YouTube, you'll know that my camera's been giving me problems. I think I've worked that out, but because this was very off the cuff, right? I turned on the lights, turned on my ring light, turned on the camera, sat down, and talked about this stuff. I didn't even really plan out what I was going to say. This was very off the cuff. I thought it would be a good test of the new webcam. What do you think of this? I'm actually thinking of using the webcam just kind of permanently as kind of a second angle that I can switch to if I need to switch to a second angle, if that makes sense. So let me know what you think of that. Anyway, like, subscribe if you haven't, share this video if you think somebody needs a talking to about their treatment of Star Trek Discovery, Can't imagine why there would be anybody in your life who you feel that way about, but in case there is, this video is now a thing that you can send to them if you feel like it will help. In the meantime, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.